All right, sorry for, hello, here we go. Welcome, all right. Well, sorry for that slight delay. We're trying desperately to record this session, and it seems to always happen when junior high is trying to record a meeting. Everything works against it. So thankfully, Robin is here and ran to get her trusty camera. So we're pretty much set so we can record this. You are welcome to not stand in line or just have a seat down here if you guys want, and just Anyinye and Ken are going to be here all through the evening, and they're not going to leave till everyone in here everyone that is here gets their documents signed. So we're going to multitask, because then some of you, I know many of you, had not yet had supper tonight because of our basketball schedule. So we're going to multitask. We're going to cover the information that's important to cover. And you guys are really brilliant people that I'm pretty sure can handle multitasking and waiting in line while we go through. So what we want to talk about tonight is the details of this trip, the details of our travel plans, the details of our schedule. We'll talk a little bit more about how on earth do we build a house with 17 grade 9 students, and talk through the schedule. I already said that. The packing list, the details of the packing list is really important. So I sent you an email today that has all of this information, but we'll go over a bunch of it, and then we wanted to make sure that that packing list is everywhere, so we gave you a paper copy. Let me introduce to you the team. The team is not all here. Our denomination that the school is under is operating their pastor's prayer retreat this week, and so Pastor Dave, Carla, his wife, Pastor Brooklyn, are all out in Banff participating in prayer retreat, which is super important. They are all traveling on this team, but we have other people here tonight, and really thankful. So Elisa Dandino, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to meet Elisa. Elisa is in Sherilyn Van Hastort's maternity leave, doing a beautiful job. Elisa's alumni and is helping to lead on this trip. Mr. Tennant, you're going to hear from him a little bit later. He has been on the trip once before and is going to come again and help to lead. Up in the sound booth, good thing we have him. We have Mr. Knibbie, and this will be his first trip, and he's helping us out with all things sound. And you saw Mr. Tweedle, hopefully, at the door. Mr. Tweedle, this is his first trip. He's been begging to go on a trip for several years, and this is the trip. And then I will be on the trip. I think I covered everybody. So Elisa's just going to open in prayer, and then we'll get into it.
Thank you. All right, just you'd bow your heads with me. God, we just thank you for this opportunity to join together for a common purpose and a common goal. We thank you so much for the blessings that you've given us as a school and just a community, and that we get the opportunity to bless our neighbors as well. God, we pray that communication would just be clear tonight, that the hearts and the minds would be just settled and confident in what's about to come. And I pray that you would just, pour out your blessings on tonight and our trip as well. Amen.
Thank you, Elisa. All right, so we've already introduced the team. I think we're down to like the fourth slide there, Mr. Knibbie. So these are the things that we'll be talking about. I've showed this picture before at maybe both of our Mexico meetings. This is a view from one of the patios on the YWAM, Youth with a Mission. We just call it YWAM, on the YWAM base. So that's our accommodations. I'm pretty sure this was a summer picture, but you can never be sure. It is just beautiful there. You see the ocean beyond. The ocean is not really within walking distance, and even if it was, we wouldn't be letting your kiddos go there, but we can certainly look out on it. It's beautiful. So the reason for the trip, I just want to continually keep this in the front of our minds. Why do we do this trip? What is our hope for this trip? So Pastor Dave, although he couldn't be here tonight, he's recorded a brief message, just recorded it, I think, even yesterday morning maybe, to share with you guys and with the students. We'll show it to them later. So is it going to roll, Mr. Knibbie? Yeah. Did we win, guys? Oh, sorry. I'm sure you tried your best. Okay, I will talk on to the next and leave you to fiddle with this. How does that sound, Mr. Knibbie? So let's talk about the flight details there right now. We had to change the trip. I think everybody's well aware the trip is the 20th to the 27th. YWAM could not accommodate us after we had everything. They said, no, we've got something that it's just not going to work. So they said, we can certainly take you from Monday to Monday. So 20th to the 27th. The flight details are there. When your students get to the airport, they are going to have a muster leader. It's kind of like how we work to go to Homewood. It's how we move through airports and across borders. So they will have one teacher, about 8 or 10 students will have one teacher that they're reporting to. They're going to travel all through the border pieces together with that one teacher. Get on the plane, get off the plane, do the count, go through the border control in San Diego, get on the bus together, and then head over to the Mexico border all together. So they have their muster person. And their muster person is going to be looking out for them all through the trip. They will be on the build team together, and anywhere where we need to, like, hey, do we got everybody? That's their adult. So that's a key part of the airport piece. Sorry, I need my glasses here. We see the return piece. And the other key piece, just like with Homewood, we'll be asking parents to do the pre-check-in and to handle those pieces. Now, vaccines. Let me talk about this a little bit. If your child is vaccinated, they need to have their proof of vaccine. It can be a paper copy or it can be on their phones. We will have students traveling with their phones on travel days. On base, we will take their phones so that they can be fully engaged in the here and now. But we're quite happy for them to have their phones for travel days so they can have things like their proof of vaccine. If your student is not vaccinated, the way we understand it right now, and we'll keep researching this and trying to make sure that we've got the latest information. We wish it was straightforward. It's not straightforward. But what we did this when we took the team in June. There is an exemption for people under 18 to travel to the United States without being fully vaccinated. They need a form called an attestation filled out and signed by you as their parents. Then we need that form so we can travel with them. Nobody even asked for them on the June trip. You never know. We understand that it just often can depend on who you meet at the border. So we have those forms. There are links we've provided. Just the slide before is 3 links that we found most informative about all this exemption piece, so you're welcome to go through all of that. And then we have found the most recent attestation form, which I believe we have linked in part of this information. No, it's linked in the package I emailed today, but we also have a copy for you. If you guys are having trouble opening that or finding it, just contact us, and we have an attestation form that needs to be filled out and sent in with all the paperwork, and then it should be fine. Some of the attestation stuff is saying you have to have, it's very contradictory, but it could be that we need to have testing done in Tijuana to come back in which case we'll take care of that for your students. That would be for unvaccinated students. And what we're hearing is most people are going back and forth and not a word about any of this is being said. So everyone's fully aware. It's hard to predict, but we want to be fully prepared. Let's give a hand for Mr. Rivas, who does such an amazing job here. especially cheering on all those teams. All right, the packing details. The packing details are important. Every year we get to base and we've got students who don't have the right stuff that they need. So number one, what they work in will likely get ruined, because even if you think you're going to have the hammer and nails, your buddy comes along and thinks it'd be really fun with the paintbrush just to give you a little swipe. So important for you to know, whatever they build in, there is a strong possibility that it will not come back looking like something they should wear out in public. They also need clothes that would be okay to wear out in public. We are at the base for 7 days. We wear these clothes, come home, shower, get into clean clothes. It's not uncommon for us to find by about day 3, boys saying as they come to dinner or want to go to the church meeting, they're covered in paint, and you're saying, why didn't you change their clothes? And they're saying, well, I didn't bring any other clothes. I don't know. So make sure you understand. They need clothes to be hanging out in. They need clothes to be painting in that will likely not look the same. February can be cold. We have had one of our trips in February, like no kidding, we were wearing, or we wish, the people on base, the YWAMers, were wearing winter jackets and toques. We wished we had our toques with us. So depending on what the weather forecast will be, the base is on the ocean, so it can feel a huge temperature variance from our work site and where we're hanging out outside all evening long. Like we hang out outside most of the time on base. So they need some warm clothes. There can be rain in February. We got rained on for a good solid day on a build site in February, so that rain stuff gets covered in paint, so it's a good idea to have different rain gear. Church. When we go to church, we want to represent the more conservative side of Mexican Christian culture. You can see everything there, but we don't know what churches that we're going to, and some of them will be much more conservative. All of them will be more conservative than what the students are used to for churches here. So we're pretty serious about our modesty dress code. Girls cannot be in short skirts. Girls are welcome to wear pants. They don't have to be in skirts, but we don't wear jeans to church. We don't show our midriffs for any of the build time because we just want to be going the other way on modesty. So really important that you kind of like, no, you can't take that. Mrs. Allen's not going to let you wear that. Guys, we do not want guys building in muscle shirts, wife beaters, whatever you call them. They need to have full-on T-shirts if they feel it's warm enough to take that off. They kind of want to be that macho, I'm the strong builder, and I don't know, every year. So modesty all the way across, and please check out what's in their suitcase. Some of these things, one of the reasons, maybe you need to go to the thrift store and pick up some stuff, and we don't want people spending a ton of money, and you can get some great things at the thrift store. The boys are welcome for going to church since you can't wear denim. They could wear just their uniform pants, and wear a different golf shirt or something over top. So, we're not asking you to spend money on a whole new wardrobe. Find ways, and it'll work really great. Any hope of that video up there? Yeah, still. Okay, we'll just keep going then. All right, the schedule, and I apologize. I didn't want to put the new staff members on the spot to talk about a trip they hadn't been on. Usually we like to have different people talking through the whole piece, but you got me, and that it is what it is. So the schedule, let me just walk you through really briefly. I won't go through all the details, but you have the schedule in the package that I emailed to you this afternoon. I know it's not very easy to see the schedule on the PowerPoint. I'm going to be reading off what I emailed you guys. This is a fairly set schedule, but there's always room. Things might get changed or tweaked. But in the many years that we've been on this trip, this is typically what each day looks like. So the first day, we travel down. We love to stop at In-N-Out. It's a huge tradition since about the second year we did this trip. Stop at In-N-Out in San Diego and have a great traditional In-N-Out meal, and then we cross the border. Now, let me mention, we've said this, YWAM is picking us up with great big charter buses, and their staff is walking us across the border, and they've been back and through the border multiple times. So we're in good care for crossing the border. We've never had any issues crossing the border. So we expect on the first day we'll get to the YWAM base at around 5 p.m., something like that. And then we just hang out. We get to know we get introduced to the YWAMers and get settled, do maybe a team bonding exercise, game, and then have our opening chapel. It's a little bit like camp in that sense. Every night is a chapel time, and the YWAM staff will be sharing and leading. There'll be some amazing worship that is usually kind of mind-boggling for our students, and then partway through they're usually kind of like, hey, okay, I'm going to do this. And especially these grade 9s, they're going to be all in right away. The first full day on campus is really an orientation day, just letting them get adjusted. They're learning lots about the culture. So they kind of go through little mini workshops. There's lots of activity time. They learn about some, like the safety procedures for building. And they also do some preparing for when they do ministry at church. One of the key things that they love to get our students to do, and Mr. Tennant is amazing at getting them to do it, they like to have our kids find a Bible story and then act it out, and then have a student learn to ask the children, so what was the story about? So it's kind of this simple little how to tell a Bible story to children. And so it takes our students about, 2 hours to each group puts together their own Bible story, and then we act it out for each other. So things like that, just to start getting them thinking about what's it going to be like if we go to church and talk to a group of students. They also spend some of the time that day talking about, what is your story? What is your testimony? Who is God to you? And if someone asked you to share that, how would you tell it? So that's kind of what the first day looks like. We're on base the whole time. Then the next day, we are on first build day. So building is 3 days long, quite amazing. The YWAM builders like to build a house in 2 days. So they slow down, because they're working with us, with grade 9 students, and they are so good at coming alongside, and the students feel like they built the house, which is really crazy, right? Like, you think they're putting up trusses, they're roofing, they're doing the electrical, framing, doing the finishing, they're doing the painting. They're doing the painting alongside the families. The families love to get involved, and so the little kids are painting their walls and everything. So that's really what we do for 2.5 days. So Monday we're traveling, Tuesday's orientation, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we will be building. We come back, we are so tired, and having supper, flopping on the soccer field, and then, well, actually not the grade 9s, the adults are. The grade 9s are running around still, ever energetic, and then we'll have a chapel time. On the last build day, we tend to be finished up sometime mid-morning, and we buy furniture packages to take to provide something inside their houses. And so the furniture package involves a bunk bed that it's a double on the bottom and a single on the top, so 3 people could sleep there. Think IKEA, so they got to be put together. So our students are trying to figure out how to put that together. Sometimes that's the biggest task of the whole thing. There's a kitchen table with chairs, again, have to be put together. And a little stove, like a really little stove that would fit in a trailer, and usually propane. to get the stove going, and then some bedding and some curtains and a clock and some dishes. So that's what goes on, kind of the finishing touches on the last day. But at the same time, there's a group of students who are selected. Sometimes we just put their names in a hat. So each team will have a group of students that will take the families to the grocery store. And the families get to go through and pick up some groceries. And usually it looks like this. The mom will go, okay, well, let's get one bag of beans, and like little bags. They're little bags. It's kind of crazy. Little bags, and she'll put one in and moves on to the next thing. Maybe it's a can of pinto beans. And along behind, because we're keeping track of how, and then we're taking 10 more bags of those beans that she wanted, and we're piling that in, and she picked up one can of maybe pinto beans, and she moves on, and we're grabbing, let's get 10 more cans. And so before she knows it, the cart is super full, and it's always a very overwhelming experience because it's beyond what they can imagine. And for us, often what we do is we just say to the kids on the night before, hey, we'd love to take them for groceries. Sometimes it varies. Sometimes people have too much money, like they've raised more money than they need, and they just say, hey, take that and put it towards the families. Like it varies. But we always ask the kids, if you want to donate some of your spending money to go buy the groceries. And we usually end up with a lot. And it's just the most incredible thing, actually, to watch these families who are stunned just to have a cement floor and a locked door, then have it full of all these groceries. So it's a pretty poignant moment in the trip for our students. And then we come back and we call it the key ceremony. And we all stand around. I think you've seen some pictures in some of the multimedia. We all stand around with the family by the door. The door is locked, which is a huge gift to have a locked door. And we go around the circle, and everyone says, what has this meant to them to build for this family? And then we end with them giving the keys, and they go to their door, and they go inside. We tell them, shut the door, we'll come visit you in a minute. And so they go in, they see all this stuff. We've tried to keep it a secret what's in their house. I'm sure they all know, but anyways. And then we knock on the door, and they open it, and we get to be their first guests in their house. And we pray for them, and it is, I don't know, 97% of the time, that's what the kids talk about. It's like, wow, it just will stay with me forever. So that just takes us to the end of the build day. We still have a day for ministries. Somewhere in there, usually it's the build day, but somewhere in there we trundle off to the market. We go to this market that is in an enclosed block. It's outside, but there's only a few exits. And so YWAM is there. We're 2 or 3 teams are there. And so there's adults all around, but the kids get to go around and spend a little money on little souvenirs or trinkets or T-shirts or things like that, and then tacos. Then the next day is, and that will be Saturday for us, going from Monday to Monday. The next day will be our ministry day. And so we might be partnering with a church, and they're renting bouncy castles for the kids in the neighborhood, and maybe making a lunch. And we're going to be there and play with them, and maybe put on our Bible story and play soccer with the kids. It might be we go to a church and we work because they need some painting done, and so we take our work clothes and we help paint a rec center or paint a church. So it can really vary. We had been going to orphanages a lot. With COVID, things kind of shut down. I don't think they got to an orphanage last June, but by now things are starting to change. So they're always in dialogue with us what we're comfortable with and where they go. So that's what the ministry day looks like. And they all go in our teams, in our build teams. Once in a while, build teams are combined. And then for us, the last day is Sunday. And an experience in a Mexican church can be very again, eye-opening and illuminating, just watching the incredible joy-filled worship. That's one of the other common statements that our students come back with, is saying, when I see how little they have, some of the churches we know, like it's in a really rundown neighborhood. It's just a tiny little shack of a church, and yet they see the people in there just worshiping with great big smiles on their faces and being so hospitable. And so for our students, again, it's pretty eye-opening. Sometimes the pastor gives a sermon right to us. That's kind of interesting too. But it's an unforgettable experience, and it's part of the beauty of the universal church and meeting Christians from all over the world. And that's part of the point of this trip, is helping our students understand that there's a whole world beyond our vacations and our homes here, and to see that God is in the middle of it. It's important for them. And then that's pretty much it. Hang out a little bit on Sunday afternoon, and then we get up super early and we'll make our way to San Diego the next morning and make our way home. So that's what the schedule looks like. I'll open it up if people want to ask questions at the very end. What is the next piece here? The building process. It's interesting to hear a little bit of the building process. So I asked Mr. Tennant to come and share what that looks like and more details.
Way back in the summer of 1995, which I guess makes me old, I went on, I think at that point, it was the second ever GCA missions trip partnership with YWAM and the San Diego Baja region to Mexico, to Tijuana. Back then, it was really different than it is now. We had triple stacked bunks. We had toilets that couldn't flush toilet paper. We had cockroaches that I wanted to stay not in the bottom bunk, but the top bunk, because there's cockroaches around. We were right downtown Tijuana. A lot has changed since then. We are now in an amazing facility just outside Tijuana in Rosarito, and tons of money has been poured into this to make it an amazing place that overlooks the ocean. And I'm excited once again to be a part of this trip in taking students in grade 9 to really experience Jesus in a way maybe they've never experienced before. Our mission statement at the school is to teach truth, inspire excellence, experience Christ, and serve through love. Something that's actually really easy at our school is to teach truth, to inspire excellence. Teachers all around are challenging the students to be the best versions of themselves that they can be, and to experience Christ. We have lots of little opportunities, whether it's in the classroom, at lunches, recesses, chapels, retreats, all sorts of stuff, to experience Jesus in tangible ways. Now, something that's really hard, that is one of the 4 values of our school, is to serve through love. Easier said than done. In junior high, of course, we have MTO hours, which I often get emails with parents scrambling to get something done. We've kind of figured out a different way of doing that this year as opposed to other years. But we still want to provide opportunities for our students as they experience Jesus, as they're taught truth, as they're inspired towards excellence, to actually have an outworking of serving, because this is what Jesus calls us to. And one huge opportunity that has stood the test of time over the last 30 years, almost 30 years, way back in 1995 when I first got to experience the missions trip, till now. And the number of trips, this will be my 7th trip with GCA, being on staff as the pastor here. And time again, this trip has proven to be something that has been formative in the lives of our students. Way back in 1995 when I got to experience, I came back, and little did I know that trip that I experienced would grow in me a passion for missions, a passion to see students serve, a passion to see me serve and continue to have my heart and my mind and perspective shaped, and have my heart break for the things that break the heart of Jesus. So why we do this trip isn't simply to provide an opportunity for our students to travel. It's not simply to provide our students an opportunity to be with one another. Those are a part of it. This trip really is an opportunity for students to live out the things that they've been learning, some of them for 10 years. Way back in kindergarten, they might have heard about the trip, and we'll often hear stories of students saying, I remember hearing about this trip when I was in elementary school, and now we get to be a part of it. So this trip is an opportunity for them to immerse themselves in the things that Jesus wants us to immerse ourselves in, to live for 1 week, even if it's for 1 week, to live our lives not thinking about ourselves, to have their phones, heaven forbid, their phones taken away, and to be with one another in community, serving one another, loving those that need love desperately, and doing something tangible with their hands in the midst of it all, and experience Jesus in a really, really cool way. What I love the most about this trip is it opens our students' eyes to see Jesus in a tangible, right in front of their face kind of way. And the same Jesus and that's there is the same Jesus that's at home, and I will often talk at the end of the trip about a few things. Because students will say to me, well, I don't want to lose this feeling that I have, and I don't want to lose this relationship with Jesus that I have. And I'll debrief at the end of the trip saying, well, there's a few things. We've worshiped together, we've read scripture together, we've served together, we've been in community with one another. And this trip opens their eyes to the reality that the Jesus and the relationship that they have in Mexico, that they've experienced there, is the same Jesus, the same experiences, the same things that they can experience here at home. And our desire is, as they go through life, that they look back on this and realize that Jesus is real, Jesus is alive, and Jesus is calling them to be a part of something bigger than themselves. So I'm excited, really excited. A couple of my kids are going. My wife Carla is going with me for the first time. The team of teachers and staff that are going are amazing. This group of grade 9s that are coming are fun, definitely lively. We'll have a ton of fun with them. And I'm excited to see the aftermath of this as we continue to talk through why we did, what we got to experience. And then Jesus was in the midst of it all. I'm excited to be with your kids in just a few short weeks.
Okay, I was saying that I don't really have an awful lot to add to what was said. 2 of my children have been on the trip, and it really did make a big impression on them. The last time I went on the trip, my son was there, and I actually distanced myself from him, so I made sure he was on a different build team, and he did his thing. And he still talks about it. He still has a positive thought about that. So I think that speaks volumes. If I brought my kids, then I do really believe that it's a great trip. But basically, the building situation is this. I used to do a bit of building to work my way through school. I did roofing and I had my own company and that kind of thing. So it's a real reunion for me to swing a hammer and be happy like that. But basically, it's an education even just in building. Like when we arrived at the site, there's a concrete pad that they've poured beforehand, and there's basically just a big pile of wood and different building materials. The YWAM people provide us with 2 or 3 people to guide us through what's going on. They usually divide us up into different teams that are like one team might be working on the trusses, on the roof, on the walls, on even doing some really basic electrical and that kind of thing. And we work. And it really turns out to be one of the highlights of the trip in the sense that when you get there, you're really struck with the people there, at least the team that the family that we helped last time, they had nothing. It was nothing. It was an 8-foot by 4-foot by 4-foot plywood shack. That's all they had. And to leave them with a house that looks like a house, like it's pretty solid, and they can lock their door and they can start to accumulate some wealth. There was even some stories I had heard that YWAM was having some trouble with the local council or something, and some of the neighbors were complaining about the bass, that they were too loud or something like that. And then one of the councilors stood up and said, you know, many years ago they built a house for me, leave them alone. So it's made an impression in that part of the world. So there's something very simple about the idea that we're just trying to do something good. These people have very little. We're going to build them a house. And there's just something just very special about that. And sometimes I think in our professional Christianity that we live in here, you know, it's hard to contribute in a meaningful way, and yet you get a chance to contribute. They are going to have a house. They are going to remember this forever in their family, that they have a little house They have a little house, and that can be the start of something, of getting their kids to the next level. So it's quite good, and the kids get to learn how to use a hammer and nails. We usually keep the saws with the leaders, so that everything is nice and safe. But you know, it's really interesting to see a pile of wood turn into a house in just a few days, and the people are very appreciative of it. Very appreciative of it. So it was a really good experience for me to be on it. I honestly was a little cynical going into it, because you say, oh, all this money could have been used a little bit different, but it really changes our kids. It really changes our kids, and that's invaluable. So the way the whole thing works together is really quite excellent. So that's my little piece of the build team, and I'm looking forward to being there again this year.
Thanks, Mr. Tennant. So the families will be selected pretty soon. I expect early January. We will be sent the little biographies of who our families are, how many kids are in their families, and so we can begin praying for them by name. And we can begin jostling over who's going to get which family, which build team. So our build teams will be announced very shortly. We will begin meeting as a group of Mexico going students at lunch hour once a week. And we'll be having conversations about how to prepare. We'll talk about the packing list. We'll talk about how should we conduct ourselves at a border. What not to joke about at a border. We'll just talk a little bit about the families, talk a little bit about the Spanish culture, the Mexican culture, and we'll pray. We'll begin just praying together in our teams and meeting together in our teams to begin that bonding process. So that will be happening. And then in addition, we have we're so excited to have our buddy program happening again with COVID being over. So every student in the school is paired with a younger or older student, and that's been happening this year. But there will be also a very intentional buddying with elementary class for the students going to Mexico. And the students will share, what are their concerns, what are they excited for. They'll kind of go and meet with their class and talk about what's on their mind about this trip they're going to get to go on. And then the class will pray for them, continue to pray for them. And then when we come back, the students will go back to that class and share some pictures and share some highlights about what they saw. So the hope is that we'll be building this impact, that the younger kids, not just like, will I get to go to Mexico? I hear there's this trip, but that it'll come more alive to them. And our students, our grade 9 students, will have that benefit of testifying to it already. What was this trip? And sharing with the younger students what this trip has meant to them. So that's another part of the whole process. That's why we love a February trip, so that we can come back and share with the students that are still here, instead of they go in June and we don't see them again. And then the other piece about a Mexico February trip is so that we can be discipling our students. A lot of times they've made some commitments that they really want help to follow through in their walk with Jesus. And so Dave and others will be meeting with anyone who wants to come at lunchtime, just for a time of discipleship and continuing in their journey. All right. Mexico travel vaccines. Sarah has been very patient here. We're really thankful. First of all, we're really thankful also for our notaries, our lawyers. Anyinyi is a grade 9 parent, and we're really thankful that she volunteers her time to help all of you get your paperwork signed. And this is Ken Keeler. He's a familiar face if you're old around here, because he was sharing today with our staff in devotions, and he has a history of the school, his family, of 35 years or 39? 36 years because his kids came through the school. His daughter's taught at the school and subs at her school. She's one of our favorite subs in elementary. She doesn't, junior high. Yeah. And now his grandkids are here. And so he has for many, many years been volunteering to come and sign this out. So we also are so thankful. Sarah, for many years, has come and shared her expertise. She is a pharmacist at Create Pharmacy and has all the know-how about what should we be planning or taking along for going to a place such as Tijuana. Come on up. Thank you, Sarah. Do we have Sarah's PowerPoint coming there?
Hi there. I'll try and make this fairly quick because I'm sure you guys want to go home. So yeah, I work at Create Pharmacy. I've done this presentation for about 5 years now, and it's been great because I've had an opportunity to not only get to know the great 9 kids, but they sometimes will come back for their boosters, so then I get to hear all the stories about what a great time they had and everything they learned just while they were there and how it changed their lives. So yeah, I'm just gonna try and go fairly quick, but if anybody has any questions, you're more than welcome to just ask me after. So these are some of the topics I'm gonna kind of go over in the presentation. We can just go on to the next slide. Traveler's diarrhea. If anybody's been to a third world country, they know traveler's diarrhea can really affect the trip. It's the #1 travel-related illness. Mexico is a country with moderate risk. I understand that YWAM, it's all, I haven't heard any major horror stories at all. I think it's pretty good there, but I know they do go off-site to a taco bar 1 or 2 nights while they're there. So I just like to inform you, and then you guys can decide if it's something you want. So the symptoms of traveler's diarrhea last between 3 and 5 days, and it's usually caused by E. coli, and the rest are caused by parasites and viruses, but more than 80% is E. coli. And we can go on to the next slide. I just suggest this for anybody going to Mexico. Don't drink tap water. Don't eat anything that's been washed in the tap water. Some people like to take probiotics to prevent. That might be a bit of overkill for this trip, but I just like to let you know. You might have heard of Dukoral. So this is an oral vaccine for prevention of traveler's diarrhea. If you've ever traveled before, you may have taken it. You do 1 dose 2 weeks prior to the trip, and then you repeat the second dose 1 week later. It is only 50% effective, so some people don't bother take it, but if you want to be extra cautious, it is something you can consider. If you've had it within the last 5 years, then you only need 1 booster dose 1 week prior. You don't have to do the whole series again. You may want to consider sending your kids with some of these things. Imodium, there's a bit of controversy whether to use it or not because it just ends up keeping the bacteria in longer. But if you're super dehydrated, then it may not be a bad idea. But a lot of kids will just go with this antibiotic. It's called azithromycin, and it's just an antibiotic that you would only take if you have a problem with traveler's diarrhea while you're there. And it's just once a day. You take 2 tablets once a day for 1 to 3 days, and it does reduce the duration of the diarrhea. This next one is probably your #1 most important one to get. So if you're gonna get anything, this is the one to get because this is not a treatable disease, hepatitis A. It is a disease that can affect the liver, and there is no treatment, like I said. It causes inflammation of the liver and dysfunction of the liver, and it's spread primarily through contaminated water and food, and there is high risk in developing countries. This is not a vaccine that Alberta Health offers in school. They offer hepatitis B, but not hepatitis A. So if you're gonna get anything, this is the one to get. There's 2 types. They're both fine. We stock the Avaxim at the pharmacy, but it's highly effective after just the first dose. So they could get the 1 dose even 1 day prior to the trip, and that would cover them for the trip. If you get a booster 6 to 12 months later, then you have more like 20 to 30-year coverage. So I always just do a quick call with people, 6 months later, and I'll say, hey, if you want to get the booster, you can. If they don't get the booster, their immunity will just wear off in about a year after the dose. But highly recommend this one. This one, you can get it. It's the Salmonella bacteria, is typhoid. It's not a disease that's gonna kill you. It'll just, cause really bad diarrhea. There is a injectable vaccine for it. I think the risk is fairly low for typhoid given where the kids are going and what they're doing, but some people have really great coverage and they just wanna get it anyway. So this is one that you could consider. It's just an injectable vaccine, and this one does have to be given at least 2 weeks prior. So if you're wanting your child to get this, don't call a day prior and try and get it. It's not gonna, they'll be covered for it by the time they get back. And the risk of typhoid in Canada is really low. Tetanus. I'm just putting this one in here for completeness sake. I'm pretty sure all your kids probably would have had the tetanus vaccine, especially if you've been following the routine vaccines that are offered through the school. The nurses come and do it. But if for whatever reason your child wasn't at school that day, then we should absolutely do a tetanus booster, especially given what they're going to be doing. So this would be transmitted through contamination of the wound. I mean, they can easily cut themselves. There's rust, metal. So this is one that's recommended every 10 years. So we should do this one if your child hasn't had it in the past 10 years. I don't think the risk of mosquito-borne diseases are really high given that you're going in February. It's cooler at that time and there aren't as many mosquitoes around, but these are some of the diseases, the Zika virus, there's chikungunya and dengue fever. They usually bite during the day, but they bite more first thing in the evening, first thing in the morning, and then as the sun is setting in mid to late afternoon. And these diseases make you just feel like you have a really bad flu. They're not in young, healthy kids that are not immunocompromised. It's probably not going to be a problem, but if you can prevent it, it's always better. We can go into the next slide. So I just suggest setting them with some Deep Woods Off or something like that and just encourage them to, spray early in the morning if they're working and they see there's mosquitoes around, or later in the afternoon. And then there's just some things you can do to prevent, like, not leaving open stagnant water around because that acts like a breeding ground for the mosquitoes. And then the other thing I suggest is always applying insect repellents after the sunscreen because the effectiveness of the repellent reduces more rapidly than the sunscreen. So sunscreen first, then the Deep Woods Off. You can go in. So this is just sort of a summary of everything. I guess I won't need to repeat, but so I've just kind of gone over whether you need it 1 day prior or 2 weeks prior. So the typhoid and the Dukoral is 2 weeks prior. The hepatitis A can be done as late as 1 day prior. And then these are just some of the general costs for everything. I do find most GCA parents have insurance through work. And most of the time, it's no charge at all if you have really good health, drug coverage. And we can absolutely bill your insurance plan for any of these things. But if you didn't have insurance, this is sort of approximate cost for everything. And that's it. Any questions? If you think of anything, you're more than welcome to call. I think Colleen often sends this presentation out, and you're more than welcome to send it out. So if any of you want to email me, or you're welcome to call the pharmacy, and we can go over everything again, or answer any other questions that you didn't think about. Yeah. No problem.
Very informative. All right. I'm thinking maybe I need to have a conversation with you. It's been a while. Okay, well, we're almost there. We just wanted to give an update on our fundraising. We're really excited because we had so many students. We said we would maybe build that fourth house, and we do have enough students that we need to split into 4 teams. So $60,000 is a lot of money, and we just need, it's actually a little less than this number, but because there is money we know is coming in, but until we have it, we're not going to count it. So we are right around just over $10,000 left towards our goal. And we are still having pancake breakfast on January 13th. It'll be open to the whole school, and it's free of charge, and we'll be welcoming parents to just make a donation to our Mexico Home Build Fund. We still have Papa John's. From the last Papa John's night we heard back, we received the school received over $300. And so we have 4 of those nights planned. So maybe we can kind of get the whole thing going and get even more people on board with ordering Papa John's. We get a percentage of that with that happening. And then we continue to blitz out just, hey, if anyone wants to just make a donation. I know you guys have received that email. Feel free to pass it on to people that you think might be interested, just as we think of year end. And some people are really excited to get involved. They want to, top up their charitable donations, and excited to get involved with a student that they know, and they know the cause is really good. So just think through. I appreciate how many of you have been sending it on to some of your networks. So consider and keep sending that on. We want to thank, just the next slide here, we want to thank the parents who have done tremendous amount of work to take care of all the fundraising from the silent auction. There's some moms that are faithfully out there freezing on the sidewalk, taking in the bottles. I forgot to mention we still have a couple of bottle drives that's bringing in money, great money, and putting on a beautiful auction. So thank you to those parents. Some of them are here tonight, and we appreciate it. I also want to give my apologies. I don't know how I missed it. Well, because it's something new we've never done before. I missed sharing one more person who's coming on our trip, and we're really excited. Robin Burnett will be coming along. The school is sending Robin so she can create a documentary of our trip and this tradition that we have. So she is on the trip, and she's going to be, I'll say the word flitting. She'll be flitting from build site to build site, being the paparazzi and interviewing our students so that we get a better quality video than what we show you at the beginning, and you can't even hear the students. Trust me, what they say is really good, but we're going to get a good quality one. So we're thankful for Robin coming along on that trip. What have I missed? There will be a trip blog if we keep going. There's a couple of slides down. There will be a blog that will be, weekly updates, or not weekly updates, daily updates. We probably won't be emailing it out like we often do at Homewood, but there'll be a blog on our website where you can go follow what happened today and hopefully see some pictures of as many students as we can capture. It's looking more hopeful with having Robin on the trip that we'll get more of those smiles on the webpage. So we'll send that link out. And that is pretty much it, except for questions. Has everyone had a chance to make it over to the tables here that needs a chance to make it to the tables? If some questions that you might have, you might want to just do it personally. I'll be up here to answer any of those kind of questions. Is there something that you think everyone would love to hear? Yes? Yeah. Sarah's got one more important thing.
Sorry, there's one thing I forgot to mention. A lot of people wonder if they have to go to their doctor and get prescriptions for all these. You do not have to do that. We can prescribe at the pharmacy, so hopefully it's just a one-stop shop if you did want them.
That's important. So, any questions for the whole group to hear? I hope it's because we've been so thorough. Well, thank you to Anyinyi and to Ken. We really appreciate their help. And thank you to Sarah and everyone who's helped make this happen. Thank you to our team who's here, and thank you to the basketball parents who've been running all over the city and haven't had supper yet. We'll let you get out of here. I'll be here. Oh, there is a question. We are taking, Missy, help me out. I think our count is now 67 students, and we have 86 students in the grade, that's the biggest group our biggest mission trip was 70. The very first year that we had 70, we had a class of 75. We took 70. So, yeah, this is one of the biggest, so we're excited. Yeah. And we'll hopefully get some prayer times organized while we're on the trip. So if parents want to be part of a prayer time, that's the most important piece, right, that we need is your prayer. So you'll hear more about that too. All right. You're welcome to leave. If you haven't seen this video yet, that was prepared of our students talking about building the homes. You can stay and watch this. And I'll be just up here if you have any one-on-one questions. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
So the trip basically is we go to Mexico and to build houses for the people who can't afford houses and are living in a rough space right now.
Out in Tijuana, they don't have much, not nearly as much as we have here. And so I think it's really good that we get to go out there and help them.
Building houses, going to local churches, and maybe going to an orphanage.
And just seeing what God can do with so little, because like we're just building houses, but it means so much to those people. I heard about it when I was in kindergarten, and I was like, ooh, what's this? I only learned more about it when I was in like grade 1 and 2. Like I've known about it for my entire years at GCA and been looking forward to it.
The first time I heard about it was in grade 1 actually, and I just heard like the grade 9s were going to Mexico and that they were gonna go help people, and I felt really excited, and I was like, for sure I want to do it once I get to grade 9.
Dad went to GCA, is that true?
Yeah, so did all of his brothers and sisters, so we have a long line of history at the school. He said it was really fun, and that it's a great experience just to go build houses, and yeah, he learned a lot about God and stuff, so he really liked it.
Yeah.
Through my service, I hope to give people just like hope.
There were people who had like literally not even the size of this office homes. Like they're so small and they're not even protected, and it's just essentially a piece of plastic over some trash. And that just really broke my heart. I really want to give a family a home that they can live in and raise a family in and just be safe and protected in.
It's always good to help people when they can't really help themselves.
I'm looking forward to meeting families and being able to help them and learn about their stories.
I'm hoping to give families a nicer time and to just change their lives. That's really nice. That's what I've been looking forward to most. The most important part of this trip, I think, is to change someone's life and also to change ourselves, because this is all for God.
I haven't asked God for help at all, and I think I need him in this time of my life. I just want like a better relationship with him, so yeah.
A deeper understanding of God and how he works in like mystical ways.
it's like you're seeing a whole new world in front of your eyes, and it's like, I need to help with this.